my personal care products is potentially poisoning me. And what do you mean? I thought I was healthy. I eat clean. I exercise. I've been living this whole way. I've never thought to turn around my personal care products. And I feel like that's a lot of people's story, is that they've done everything else. And then you realize, oh my gosh, there are chemicals that are carcinogenic in my shampoo or conditioner or whatever that I'm using every day. And so that just sent me in a rabbit hole.
Welcome to the Wealth Podcast, Off With Your Coat, a podcast on women's health and wellness where we flip the script and ditch the surface level chatter. We need to ask the real questions. Let's get back to storytelling and back to basics to help us uncover how to set ourselves up for true health and wellness and pass it on. I'm Kat Duff, founder of Gen Well, the women's health advocacy brand building wealth, the intersection of health and wellness. Some days it's me and a doctor, coat off, talking about what really matters. No fluff, no filters. Other days, it's East meets West, trading tools, not punches, to help move women's health forward. We're building generational wealth. Come with us. Coats off, let's go. If you've been wanting to start easing your way into low-tox living or are curious where to start, this episode is for you. Today's guest is Kayla Rose, someone who truly lives and breathes health and wellness in an approachable way. With a degree in exercise science, she has been a personal trainer for almost a decade, but in 2020, her passion for health went even deeper, diving into low-tox living, starting with beauty and personal care, as well as human performance, to really explore what it means to optimize your body and mind. We'll cover the basics of low-tox living, finding what works for you, and even touch on the hot-button topic of women's weightlifting. I am truly excited for this one. And with that, off with your coat. Okay, ladies, we have a super exciting chat today with my friend Kayla Rose. She is a utility player and covers health and wellness from every angle, from the environmental side to the physical body. And I'm just so thankful to have you here. So thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh, this is such an honor. Thank you so much for having me. I am just so excited for this chat today.
Of course. So as we do with all of our guests, we start with an off with the coat moment, really to get your personal story. We connect so much better as women when we're storytelling. And so I'd love to hear from you if there was a particular health challenge where you sort of had an aha moment as a woman to be like, why didn't anyone tell me this? Or something that really sent you down your personal health journey.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so many micro moments along the way, but one of the bigger ones for myself was going off of birth control and just learning more about the female hormones and phases and just the lack of basic knowledge that I had. And I like to think that I'm a pretty well-educated individual. So if I didn't know even what a follicular phase was, then how are all my other peers to know this? And I'm the one who also wants to learn so much about being my best, healthiest version of myself. So that journey of going off of birth control was something that really was very eye-opening in just how little knowledge I think everyone, especially females, have about their own bodies.
Right. How old were you when you went off?
I went off birth control 2 years ago, so I was 26, and I just decided it was the right thing for me, which I was working with a naturopathic practitioner and functional medicine practitioner, Rev Health at the time, and I still am working with them. And so I really wanted to make sure that I was supported not only emotionally, but physically from the inside out before I made a bigger choice like that. I had
Yeah.
been on birth control for 10 years, and I feel like that's so many people's story is I got prescribed it, I went on it, I don't have to think about it anymore. And it was just something that I wish I knew a lot more about. I'm happy that I was on it when I was. It was definitely the right thing for me at the time. But the frustration really for me was just the lack of knowledge of what phases females are supposed to go through, what's normal. I feel like there's a lot of fear around going off of it. So I definitely felt that. And I was definitely happy I read the book In the Flow by Elisa VT, and that really helped me understand what, my life can look like without birth control in it. And again, it was definitely something that was the right choice for me at the time. It's definitely not the right choice for everyone. It's such a great option, an empowering option to have birth control. I don't I definitely don't think that it's something that everyone should just go off of, but I think that it is definitely something that I wish I had more knowledge and education around it when I first got on it, and then also when I was in college and after college on when was the right time for me to go off of it.
Right. I mean, we get no understanding of why we're going on it unless you know, a lot of my friends, it was for acne or really bad cramps. And now we know you shouldn't have really bad cramps. There's something that is underlying, or, obviously to prevent pregnancy. But now with social media, it's like everyone's like, get off of the pill, like burn the bridges. Everything is so polarizing. And birth control can work really well for some women it doesn't. Or it's that trial and error of like what actually does work. I personally do agree with the fact that it's a little alarming putting something in your body for that long period of time because we don't have any evidence on it because we sort of are the use case, which is really hard to swallow, pun intended. Um, so I'd love to know how you were influenced to come off. Was that social media? Was that starting with a functional practitioner and them sort of guiding you through how you can support it naturally? Like what sort of was that last part for you that changed your mind?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I was doing everything from thinking about my nutrition, my fitness, my personal care products. I was doing everything else, and I really was not tapped into my hormone health. And so when I was thinking about all these other silos and pillars of my life that I was so passionate about being the healthiest, best version of myself, to not think about my hormone health was something that was really missing. And so I was working with Maddie Cunningham, who is at Rev Health, and she is so great because, she absolutely did not, say this is the right thing to do, go off this, whatever. She just gave me all the information I could want and to make the best decision for me when the time was right. So I did all my extensive blood work with her to make sure that I could supplement before I went off. I wanted to make sure that I was at a baseline with everything else so that I felt like I had the best um, means so that I could feel like when I actually went off, I didn't have, other things that were super out of whack, or if there was anything that I was super alarming before I went off that I should address first.
Mhm.
So I made sure that I did all my extensive blood work and advanced lab work with her, was supplementing accordingly. So I had the physical aspect down. And then emotionally and mentally, I wanted to make sure that, of course, it was the right thing, that I was ready for this and I am single. So I was prepared to have conversations with people if they came into my life, to make sure that I, wasn't being irresponsible. So I read the book In the Flow, and that gave me a lot more education and empowerment around what a cycle is, how to avoid getting pregnant, and just learning about all the different phases that we are supposed to go through and that we're not supposed to have these horrible cramps. And that was the reason why I went on it in the first place was, of course, trying not to be pregnant in high school and college, but also I had really, really bad cramps and I had a lot of fear around if I go off, then it's going to be that much worse. And Maddie told me, that was 15 years ago. You're a whole new person than you were back then. And, we have evidence to show that you are as healthy as you could be. Let's, now that we've supplemented accordingly, let's remove one variable at a time if it feels right for you, and it did at the time. I was so mentally locked into I had a very smooth transition coming off of it. And I also didn't have a bad experience on it as well. So I'm very lucky in that regard. But I felt like I was really supported from the inside out, physically
Yeah.
and emotionally. And that's not everyone's story or the case for most people, I feel.
Yeah. That's just a general PSA, I think. You should have guidance and support. Credentialed is
Yes.
probably the best in some way. It doesn't have to be traditional medicine. It can be, on the natural side, it can be someone like an acupuncturist, but someone that has more experience than you that can help guide you. We shouldn't be just like, again, going to social media, going to a friend's advice and just saying, "Oh yeah, that worked for you. Great. Let me take that advice. Let me, take this supplement without testing my own blood and seeing what my nuances are." That is lost in all of the health communication right now. there's blanket statements left and right, and especially for hormone health. I'm so pleased to hear that you're in this place where you understand your body because being an elder millennial, I didn't learn that. I'm still learning, but I didn't learn that until I was, 32, 33 and trying to get pregnant. And I'm like, I can't get pregnant every day of the month. I was
Yeah.
like,
That was
why was I
Yep.
panicking?
Yeah. That was when I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I
Yes.
thought I was told if I, like, looked at a boy that I was gonna get pregnant, you know what I mean? So it's definitely one of those things that, educating yourself,
Yeah.
doing your own research, but also working with a credentialed practitioner, doctor, whatever is
Yeah.
like, having both is really important.
Did you go to Catholic school?
I did not.
Okay, I was gonna say because looking at a boy,
Yeah.
I didn't either, but I recall, like, Sunday school and, like, the dances and everything, and it would be like, "Leave room for the Holy Spirit,"
Yeah.
as you were dancing.
100%, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
I went to private school, but not
but yeah,
necessarily
got
Catholic,
it,
but it was
okay.
certainly similar, just like
Yeah,
the way that we talked about it was just like it was the worst thing in the world, and,
yeah,
it could happen any day, and you're like, "Wait,"
yeah, you c
once you actually learn the science behind it, you're like, "No,
right,
that's not how it works,
yeah,
unfortunately."
don't lock eyes or
Yep,
something will happen.
exactly.
So that is I'd love to hear more because you are we're very similar in the way that we are so fascinated by the hormone health world, by women's health, and by this low tox living, clean living, if you will. And I'd love to hear how you've gotten into that. I know, the obvious reasons you started to work with a functional medicine practitioner and sort of evolve from there. But I'd love to know the nitty gritty and also for other women to hear, okay, I'm getting all this information. What do I do with it?
Yeah, totally, 100%. I feel like I'm very lucky that my whole life, my whole family has been very health conscious, and what that has meant has changed. Back when I was growing up, it was skim milk, low fat everything, and that, in my opinion, for me, has changed on the approach of what healthy really means, but I'm at least very grateful that that's always been a priority for my family, so it was easy for me to just continue that and embody that every day. I also was an athlete growing up, so thinking about performance and health was always top of mind for me, and my low tox, kind of non-toxic passion really, I think, ignited. I think of it this way in 2020, and I feel like maybe the conversation was had more. Maybe it was that I was at home, during COVID and had nothing else to do but consume content. But I actually was approached by someone from Beauty Counter, which was an MLM. Now I think they've rebranded to be Counter.
Mhm.
And at first I was like, oh my gosh, an MLM, like what is this, whatnot. But actually, the education that Greg Renfrew put through that MLM Beauty Counter background was so impactful, and something that it was just something I'd never heard before talk about of like,
Yeah.
"Oh, my personal care products is potentially poisoning me." And what do you mean? I thought I was healthy. I eat clean. I exercise. I've been living this whole way. I've never thought to turn around my personal care products. And I feel like that's a lot of people's story is that they've done everything else and then you realize, "Oh my gosh, like what do you mean there are chemicals that are carcinogenic in my shampoo or conditioner or whatever that I'm using every day, hand wash." And so that just sent me in a rabbit hole, and I'm so grateful that it did because it is now something that I truly live by, and it's almost like once you dive in, there's no going back, and you're in
Yeah.
it, and it's can definitely be overwhelming at first, but it's only overwhelming because you're trying to collect and source your own data and understand the truth and figuring it all out,
Yeah.
and, truly one thing at a time. But yeah, I'd say 2020 was definitely my pivotal moment for really understanding, even just using the language of like non-toxic, low toxic, clean living.
Mhm. Was there any one thing that Greg or from Counter that really, like, hit home with you?
I think that breaking it down by ingredients,
Mhm.
I feel like that is the biggest thing that we learned on nutrition labels of food, and I never had thought about that again for personal care products, and I think that that's just the easiest way that you can educate yourself is by turning around the bottle and understanding that, any parabens or phthalates or anything you don't really recognize probably isn't the best for you. And I think that just really the focus on the ingredient aspect was everything for me, and the amount of information and education that Greg had put through Counter's um, education system, and just having that education so accessible to so many people at so quickly and so easily digestible was really, really impactful.
Yeah. I love Counter and I love their face sunscreen. I think I was telling you this. It's hands down my favorite sunscreen. I use it on my kids as well. It's incredible. So how did that rabbit hole of ingredients lead you to the next step? What was that?
I, at the time, was living in Portland, Maine, where I'm from, and I was personal training full time. Knew I wanted to move to Boston at some point, and I didn't know when that was. Everyone was moving out of cities and into places like Maine at the time of 2020, while I was having this like epiphany moment and wanting to just like live in the city and work in clean beauty. So at the time, I was looking for jobs and I found this company called Folane, which has since been bought out by Credo. But Tara Foley, the founder of Folane, had the most inspiring story. And again, when you have nothing to do in COVID, I listened to every podcast that she was on and just educated myself around her story, how she built Folane, and just was so inspired. So I think I manifested that for myself. I saw that there was an opening and I just wanted to immerse myself. And I definitely financially didn't really have a lot of the means to move to Boston and do this, but I said, I'll figure it out. So I have never doubted myself whenever I've been passionate about something. I've just done it and figured it out along the way. So I started working at Folane in Beacon Hill, and that was just the next step because I got just immersed in the clean beauty world, meeting founders like Indy Lee, Tata Harper, Emily from Ursa Major, all these just incredible brands. And it was so fun to learn about so many brands and be in a retail space that carried so many different products and brands and have the education around everything and just really learn from each other. So that was a really incredible experience. That was some of my happiest work days. I just absolutely loved being there, educating customers that came in. We're right next to the hospitals like MGH and Beacon Hill, and for people to be coming in saying that they're currently going through cancer treatment or their mom is going through cancer treatment, they need to find products that are safe for them to use and to be able to actually give them recommendations that they can use because all those products, so many of those products were truly non-toxic, especially for such a sensitive experience that some of those chemo treatments were going through. That was just a whole experience of joy that I never thought I could have, and I just loved every second of my time there. So it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. It's so it's a hard truth, right? That we've done it with food, but it's sort of the personal care products, the home products. It's not yet until you get sick or someone in your family gets sick or you hit a different life stage, you have kids, you're trying to get pregnant, you're pregnant, that you actually flip a switch in your brain to say, "Oh, I should probably change something because I'm hearing these little chatters of how chemicals can harm your body and your hormones, possibly cause cancer, all of these things." And it takes that moment for you to change, right? Whereas we should be getting ahead of it. We should be creating an environment for ourselves to thrive. And kudos to you to moving from a beautiful area in Maine to Boston because it sounds like you like a challenge and you were like, clean living. I'm going to move to a city to challenge the polluted air
Yep, exactly.
on top of everything. So we'll dive into that in a moment. But with Genwell and what we're building, we see the home as a sanctuary and sort of this baseline for health where you come home, your family comes home, and it's a reset, right? You can only control what you can control, which is your home to some extent, not everything. It cannot be perfect. But do you agree with that? Would you say that your home has sort of become that place where you can reset?
100%. Yeah, I think that I'm always striving to build the best version of my life and support myself and slow down and enjoy my home. I'm definitely one that all my friends know I'm booked crazy, just doing so many things. I love doing it all, and I need to slow down and enjoy my home, and part of that is building the home to be able to enjoy staying home in. Everything from the products to the emotional feeling. I personally don't have, like, a television in my bedroom, like, all those little choices that you make, that is your space, and to create and curate that to be feeling like a safe, healthy space that you can reset and recharge and detox at night, because that's what we do overnight, has definitely been something that I have slowly audited each product, the colors, everything, and I think that it's always an evolving process, but I love just starting from one thing at a time, and every day that I wake up, I ask myself, "Why am I doing this? Does this still serve me?" You know, like, currently, my morning routine is to get up and tongue scrape, and then oil pull, and then brush my teeth, and I'm kinda doing things while I'm oil pulling, and every day I'm auditing and asking myself, like, "Is this still serving me? Is the research backing up that these habits and products are aligned with my goals and what I want and the healthiest, best version of myself?" So I think that the practice of constantly auditing what you're doing, what's in your space is such a important thing to implement into your life, because all those answers are going to be uniquely um they'll be unique for each individual person on the things that they're going through, the resources that they have, the education that they have, but just to be able to constantly audit the physical things, the practices is such an important thing that I felt like in 2020 when I moved into my own space for the first time, moving out of home with my mom, that I am really grateful to have done that and just continue to evolve to fill that space with what I want and what serves me.
Yeah. I love that answer, and I love the idea of auditing. Think Well, first of all, do you after you tongue scrape, are you oil pulling with coconut oil, or do you have, like, a specific thing you're using?
I
Okay.
just have organic coconut oil, and I just take, like, a tablespoon, teaspoon, something a scoop, and, do that for 20 minutes on a good day, 5 minutes on a day that I'm rushing.
You got some strong cheeks, girlfriend. 20 minutes.
Yeah. I know, I'm, like, making my coffee, I'm like, "But I can't talk. I don't have kids, so that's definitely a big reason I could do that for 20
Yeah, my
minutes."
son would just be like
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but I but going back to that, I think also when you were saying, and I'll keep looking at the research and see if it changes, I think that's a lot of the part of low tox living as well. There are some things that are no harm, no foul. If you're gonna, you know, unless they come out with some research that is saying that coconut oil is going to give you some sort of disease in your mouth, there's no harm to doing that, right? If it makes you feel good and you feel a difference personally and you don't feel like that bacteria is getting back into your gut, go for it. I feel like so oftentimes we just keep listening on repeat to these new things that are coming out and like, oh God, I have to uproot my routine and something that's working for me as an individual. Whereas we don't. Yes, if you, as we were going back to our earlier point, if you're not doing something under particular guidance, then
Yeah,
yes, you should really be alarmed if
yeah.
you're taking too many supplements not under someone's, medical guidance or control, for example. But um, then in terms of like the details of your home, what were some of the first swaps or changes that you made as you were auditing your space?
Yeah. I think because I love products and I'm such a product junkie and I love beauty and, makeup and everything, that was the easiest place to start. You know, those products can be very inexpensive comparatively to something like a mattress. So I think my personal care products were the things also that you're using every day, that I swapped skincare, body care, everything in the shower, and soap. Everything that was in my bedroom and bathroom was the easiest for me to swap because also whenever I was done with the product, I would just make a different choice and make a new, um, and try something else that was new, and I love trying things. So, those were the places that I started before I started investing in some larger items, that were more like one-time purchases. So, a shower filter was one as well, and yeah, it just slowly grew from there. But I think so much when you're in this clean living auditing process that you realize less is more in every sense of the word, and I know that you preach conscious consumerism as well, and I love that, and I feel like I constantly was like, "Let's start from 0." Like, we don't need everything. I love these things. So I love putting on a toning mist, and I love putting on a serum, and I love putting on my SPF, but I don't need it. So I really, really constantly was questioning, why did I have these products in my life in general as well? Um, do I really need this? Do I just like the way it feels? And so I think that that was something that I realized I might also not need as many things in my routine.
Yeah.
And that definitely has helped with that auditing and helps you save money too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, going back to basics, we always say it, but opening your windows in the day to get some air circulation, get, trap dust and VOCs that are in there, like getting them out. Not wearing shoes in the house is a huge one. You're tracking in feces and microplastics and dirt and all of this. And my kids are licking the floor. Like that to me is a no brainer. I don't understand why people are wearing shoes in the house. I love fashion. Love fashion. Get yourself a sassy pair of slippers. You do not need to wear shoes in the house. And if you have someone coming in to do work or helping you out, you can get those little booties on Amazon. It is completely fine to say, "Hey, would you mind taking your shoes off?" It is if people are looking at you funny, like, then you're not welcome in.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Um, so when you were looking and doing the audit of your skincare products, were there anything specific? What can women be looking for as they're auditing their products? Are there like 3 things to look out for? And what are some brands that you're really loving?
I think that the EWG Environmental Working Group app, that has really helped me. They definitely stay up to date for the most part. There are certainly some things that aren't on there, but I think that that has really been a tool that I've used to help me understand how toxic or not toxic something is. And then also, I like that in that app too, it breaks it down by ingredient. So you can make an informed decision if it says that, you know, that this is an example, like if there's an essential oil and they rated it a certain way, you can read why they did that. But you could say, I don't really care about that. I'm going to go with this product. So I just like that it's very much just giving you all the information that you could want, and you can make an informed decision with each ingredient broken down on why they rated a product a certain way. Um, I do think that parabens, phthalates, all of those things that I think have made it kind of mainstream and people are calling out like no parabens, in the shampoo or whatnot. I think that those are really something important to avoid. Alcohols in a lot of things. I mean, there's so many name brand things like Aquaphor and CarMax and some of those like lip products that everyone wonders why they're addicted to it, and it's because it's drying you out, and so then you feel like you need to put more on because there's alcohol in
Right.
it.
And it's petroleum based. So you're just like slathering that on. And as a mom, I mean, y- we circumcised my son. You have to use some sort of lubricant after that. And just like in general, you do it for diaper rash and to sort of seal in the moisture. I will link the one that I love that is plant based. But that was another sort of thing for me is like I had never thought of that before of these types of products or a huge thing in the recent years was talc and being in baby powder. My girlfriends and I, before dry shampoo was a thing, we were in college like throwing the baby powder in our
Yeah.
scalps.
Yeah.
It's probably why my postpartum hair doesn't grow back. But there's just I think in general, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, there's not enough evidence on many of these ingredients to say, there's no causal relationship, which means that it's not directly causing a link to cancer, to infertility, to eczema in children or allergies or autism and all these things. But my personal perspective is if there's anything that we should be cautious about, I want to know. And to your point, I want to make an informed decision. I want to have that information in my arsenal, in my toolbox to say, is this something that I can live without? Is this something where I'm spending my hard earned money on something? Will it potentially harm my family in any way, shape, or form? Because we don't know about the cumulative damage of these chemicals. I think if we were looking at three things in our current environment that we need to watch out for, it's air, it's forever chemicals,
Mhm.
and then it's these microplastics.
Yep.
And so as we're doing those audits in our homes, or, even when you're traveling, if you're looking at Airbnbs and that sort of thing, like there's smaller amounts of time, but all of this exposure is cumulative, right? You're getting on the plane, you're exposed to EMFs. There isn't a way currently for us to manage that dose. Like everyone says the dose makes the poison, but everyone's an individual. And epigenetics is now saying that there's even small dosages of some chemicals that can turn specific genes on. And so it's just fascinating for me. I nerd out on that side of things where I'm like, oh gosh, well, I'm going to switch my laundry detergent first because that's something that's on us all the time. My kids and my family, we use the same laundry detergent, and I know that it's not affecting our hormones, and it just gives me peace of mind. So, as you're assessing and auditing your products, how do you decide what you want to spend your money on versus what maybe you can kind of give a little bit of an inch with?
Yeah, I think that for me personally, it's all about performance. Like if I want to buy something that is going to help with hydrating my skin, I want it to work. If it doesn't work, then I'm not going to buy it. And I would be willing to make a less clean, quote, option in order for it to work for what I want. So I think that I approach it from a performance perspective, and then I try to find the cleanest version of what I'm looking for. And that's where a lot of testing and trial and error, of course, something might work for me and not work for someone else. But I hope that my recommendations and I try to share a lot about how I got there and why I made those decisions to help people. Maybe they can start where I kind of recommend and then they could try it for themselves and see. But I feel like, for example, for sunscreen, that's a big one. That's a big conversation right now. Finding anything that's mineral based, broad spectrum, like that is something that is personally, there's enough technology that there are sunscreens that don't have a huge white cast. And again, that's
Mhm.
for my skin tone personally. I know that darker skin tones are not, have as many options as lighter tones do. So I definitely think that that's something that there are so many great brands that have no, white cast that are mineral based, broad spectrum sunscreens. So I have lots to choose from in that perspective. But makeup is definitely a little more challenging, I feel like. But it's made me really rethink why am I putting on concealer and foundation and bronzing and this and that. And I used to, in college, love creatively expressing myself through makeup, and I bought everything. I bought a lot of Kylie lip kits. So the
Oh,
pipeline
yeah.
Kylie lip kits to non-toxic living is definitely an interesting one. But it made me rethink, again, going back to conscious consumerism and the amount of things that you're putting on your face. Why do I need to put on a 40-step process just to then look natural? Can I truly just put on tinted SPF and mascara? And that's been my go-to. That's really what I wear all day, day and night. So that's something that has helped me in the auditing process rethink, why do I even need 12 different products? And can I try not using that and save that money, invest it into something else? And that has been something that I'm constantly asking, like, why? What's the outcome of the product that I am looking for? Do I
Mhm.
really need that product? And then kind of going back from there.
Yeah. So currently, I have 2 small children. I have sort of gone through the pregnancy, postpartum phases, and, like, if I'm as I'm building this business, sort of trying to look ahead into the perimenopause, menopause, and just how I can help get ahead of those stages as well. So that's kind of where I am as I'm thinking through products. It's my children and myself and my husband's health. Where are you in your life stage, and how does that impact what you're buying and what ingredients you're trying to avoid in your home?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the plastic is one place to start for everyone and is a blanket statement that everyone can continue to evaluate where they have plastic because it is one thing that is never going to be good for you. And the least amount of plastic that you are coming into contact with every day, the better. Same with PFAs, forever chemicals. That's a huge one that you could be cooking organic chicken that has been, free range and all the things. But if you're cooking it on a pan that has PFAs and chemicals that are leaching into that, then you're kind of negating and you're actually doing so much more damage than probably getting a not organic chicken, but cooking it, on cast iron or ceramic that is non-toxic. Um,
And just quickly to for our listeners that don't know what, PFAs are or PFAS, um, Teflon, anything that says like non-stick on it. A big pain point for me is I cannot find a non-toxic or a lower tox waffle maker for my kids
Interesting.
because they all have Teflon, and my kids eat waffles every day. So for me, my conscious choice is that's something that I'm using daily for my children. It's a no for me. So, I sort of think of it as what is your daily exposure to something? To your point, are you slathering on your SPF every day? Are you cooking with that pan every day? You're breathing in that air, you're sleeping on the same mattress?
Yep.
Those are the bigger decisions that
Yeah.
I think you should be making. What is your stance on the healthier pans right now? There's so many direct to consumer pans. We have a bunch of them. We also have like Calphalon stainless steel pans, which I love. We have a lot of cast iron pans. What's your stance on those?
Yeah, I think that stainless steel, cast iron are the safest. I think that there's a big, gap in, at least for me, understanding how to take care of them the right way. I have bought ceramic pans, but then use a pretty gritty stainless steel spatula and it cut, and I know that once you damage a pan, then it kind of, even if it is non-toxic or less toxic, that again, could leach some chemicals into the food. So I think that the care and the education around how to care for your pots and pans, at least for me, maybe that's because I don't love to cook. But I think that that's a big gap in, okay, this customer has bought your product, but how is the best way to take care of them to make sure that they stay
Mhm.
in good condition and all of that? And also to your point, it's not the one product. It's not if you have, one product in your daily life that you're using and that says, yes, there might be some chemicals in there, but it's safe. It's the fact that you are sleeping on a toxic mattress, then you're getting up and you're brushing your teeth with toxic toothpaste, and then you are showering every day with toxic body wash, and that's just like 30 minutes of your day. And then you add that all up and it's the toxic overload. And that's, I think, the missing link between generations, between people who kind of understand this concept and not. It's not one product that is adding up to this overload and toxic burden on our bodies. The
Yeah,
reason why so many people like us are kind of like screaming from the rooftops, it's because it's in everything.
right.
And one decision a day will make a big impact when you start to slowly swap things. But that is, I think, the biggest misunderstanding amongst people is people say, I've been, eating this way for my whole life. Like, why should I care? But it's because we're continually being exposed to more and more and more chemicals. So the way
Mhm.
you were eating 30 years ago, even if it's the same, you're now exposed to more things. So it has a much larger stress on the body and can turn on those genes that you were talking about earlier. So I think that that's a point that not a lot of people have grasped or understood.
Right. I have this conversation with my mother-in-law frequently, and I hope she listens to this episode because I think the last couple of years we had, not really seen eye to eye, but I think now we're in a good spot because it's that cumulative damage where, some of those products, you always see things flying around social media where like, oh, all these food products and other products only had simple ingredients back then. Some of that is true, some of it is bullshit, right? But it is now like, what's in your hand? What are you looking at right now? You're constantly on your phone. You have access to EMFs, oxidative stress. If you believe in global warming or not, something's happening, right? Like there are things that are out of our control where it is just stacking up on one another. So take control of what you can. So as you were auditing also, and what could you tell women, especially in terms of like hormone health and endocrine disruptors? So for those who don't know, substances, chemicals that actually can alter your hormones and your hormone health and fertility and all of that. Where would you start now that you've gone through the process a couple of times? Where would you start in your home and a couple of things to say to women like these are kind of non-negotiables that you should start with?
Yeah. I think that to your point, things that are easy is always an important thing, and especially the things that are free. So I agree with you on the take off your shoes. Like that's
Mhm.
such a simple thing that you can literally do this very second. When you flush the toilet, put the seat down so that all that
Mhm.
bacteria and stuff doesn't go into your air. Um,
I saw something on that and it was like you're basically like taking on your partner's like feces and I was like, "Oh no. Oh no. No, no."
yep,
So whatever's going on in their, immune system,
good.
like all
Yep,
of that, I'm like,
yep,
"Oh, no, thank you."
yep,
Easy,
yep.
easy
So
pick.
shut that toilet
Mhm,
and then
mhm,
flush. Um, I think that I kind of think of it as like a three-prong approach of like prevent and then what you have that you're working with and then how to detox. So in terms of the prevention, these are some of the things that I would say like there's no excuse not to do today. In addition, I would look at the things that you use every day. So I think hand soap is really important and one that I is such an easy swap that I feel like so many people don't really have a strong preference towards what their hand soap is or smells like. So I love, Branch Basics. And again, if you can go and get all of their cleaning products, then that would be a huge win. That's a great Christmas present coming up, for the holidays. Ask for that for yourself or buy it for yourself.
yeah,
Or that's what I gift to so many people is the cleaning products. Because that's again what it's on your clothes, it's on your surfaces, and you don't know what you're putting down and then putting in your mouth. So I think that cleaning products and hand soap with that is a place to definitely start.
mhm,
And I would say in terms of one investment that if you had some money to spend, I would definitely get a water filter, a
mm.
reverse osmosis water filter. I personally have AquaTrue. I think that's also what you have as
Oh,
well.
we
Yep,
and it's
yep,
the countertop one?
yep. And I literally bring with me a half
Okay.
gallon every day. It's like rucking to work every day. But if I spent my money on this reverse osmosis water instead of drinking not filtered water here at work, I just put this in my backpack and then I have to drink it if I want to make the load lighter on the way back home.
Yes. Do you remineralize your water?
Yes, I was just gonna
What do
say
you
that's a really
use?
important piece that I think not a lot of people maybe realize. So I use the brand Trace Minerals
Mhm.
and I remineralize according to the back, 40 drops every day. So I fill this up. I know that that's what I have to drink every day. If I exercise, I probably drink a little bit more than that. And remineralizing with trace minerals. And that has been one of the best investments that I've made. And I admittedly got my AquaTrue on Black Friday last year. And, again, you can always wait for the sale. And I
Yeah.
did.
Oh, that's a great tip. We should round up some Black Friday opportunities for everyone. Um, I we haven't remineralized our water, so we need to, but my husband and I do use trace minerals, and I have a question because I use it when I'm very dehydrated. So after I've used the sauna, had a really, enduring workout, but ours tastes like seawater.
Yeah,
Does
probably.
yours?
Yeah.
And you put it in your water?
Yep. So I will do for me personally, like I fill this all up with reverse osmosis water, and
Okay,
then I put the
okay.
40 drops in there so it's not as concentrated when it has, like, that much
That much
fluid
water.
ounces yeah,
Okay.
but people definitely when I love it's like a party trick whenever people come over, I'm like, "You gotta come over for the reverse osmosis water," and, so they do, and they are like, "This is really salty," and, with the
Yeah.
trace minerals in it, but it's all about the ratio.
Okay, so that's exactly right because my husband and I just shoot the trace minerals because because we don't have time to like sit there, like
But they're in 1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm just taking the dropper to the mouth.
yeah,
I don't let it touch my mouth,
yeah.
um but it is like a lot of people are using all of these, electrolytes now. You generally don't need electrolytes. Like if you're not filtering your water, if you're just going about your day and you're getting a workout, like regular workout, you're not sweating a ton, you don't really need electrolytes. And the trace minerals are so great because they are pure. It's derived from seawater, which is why it's so salty. And so that's a great tip. It's for, if you want to be like Kayla and enjoy your large glass of water, great. If you want to be like Kat, just a little bit of water and then
Yep,
just shoot it back
shoot it back.
depending on how you're feeling that day. But I like that. Okay, so that's probably why I've been feeling dehydrated otherwise. So thank you for reintroducing.
It's amazing.
Um, what about air filters? Because I would say that's one of my first purchases where I was investing when I was single and now with my kids, we have an air purifier in every room. Um, Even just, like, thinking about my kids' rooms and the diaper pail, it's like there are particles that are coming out of there. You could have the best diaper pail, I don't care. You could have, you know, 60 locks on that thing. Shit's coming out,
Yep,
literally.
literally.
So having that is really important to me, and it just gives me a little peace of mind. I've, like, double downed and done, like, the Amazon air tests so that we can see, how clean the rooms are. We also live, I think, as you do, in a smaller sort of space, so you're cooking in the same space that you're hanging out, that your kids are there, and you don't really get that full especially in the winter, that, air filtration if you're leaving the windows open. So is there one that you like, or are you diving into that?
Yep, that's definitely one thing that's next on my list.
Yeah.
From all the research that I have done personally, I love Jasper and
Mm.
could not recommend enough listening to Mike from Jasper talk on any podcast, and he really talks a lot about, like, the baby room and how you typically, you paint the walls right before they come, and so, like, you don't give enough
Yeah.
time for the off-gassing of the paint and the diaper bail and all this stuff that, in such a, sensitive being's time, a baby is so sensitive, it's often neglected a lot, so that's definitely he does such a great job talking about, especially newborns and how to prepare the room, you know, in a way that is safe for them, and I thought that that was something that I had never thought of before listening to him speak, but Jasper is definitely one that I am hopefully gonna get this year on Black Friday sale. But when I was kind of auditing, thinking about again where to spend my money, um, I do live in a newer building, so in terms of air pollution and whatnot, at least I know that I'm not in like before I was in the North End in a fourth floor walk up that probably was built, the same time Paul Revere was around. So if I stayed there longer, I probably would have definitely gotten an air filter beforehand.
Yeah.
But knowing that I now live in a newer building, that is one thing I said, and maybe I don't necessarily need that as bad as I had. So between a mattress and an air purifier, those were the two that I had to, decide between. And I chose a mattress because sleeping in it for, hopefully 8 hours a night. And, that was, those are the types of decisions that are hard to do because I have the knowledge, I just wanna buy it, but financial wellness is definitely a
Yeah.
thing, and it
Yes.
does, sometimes take longer than you would like, to be
Mhm.
able to live and lead the life that you want, but I know that I'll get that hopefully soon. So, yeah.
Yeah. And all of those small changes make such a difference in the way that the exposure makes that cumulative difference. It's the same with sort of those small steps and removals. Um, how do you deal with the balance of everything? You were saying the financial anxiety, but just general anxiety, because once you get down that rabbit hole, as you were saying, there's so much fear mongering of what these chemicals can cause. There's so much that is ever changing. How do you stay level and allow yourself to have that sanctuary at home?
I love that. I think I can really compartmentalize and cancel out noise really well. And I don't know, maybe when I developed that. I used to be a competitive figure skater when I was a kid, and my mom would always tell me, like, go into the bubble. And I think that that's something that, you just kind of like cancel out the noise around you and you really go inward and focus on you. And I think that that is something that I've been able to take with me even when there is so much, content and noise coming in about do this, take this supplement, this is going to kill you, all this stuff. I think I do a really good job of blocking out the noise, slowing it all down. The less I have in my routine and the products that I'm using, I think the better, because then you know you have these 3 things that you use. Do you need them? Can you add one more in? How do you think about implementing it? I think that that's before I buy something new, I always think about researching it first. When I hear things from multiple sources that, praise or talk positively about a given thing, let's call it a sunscreen. If I keep hearing someone recommending something, then I think that there's power in that. Then I think about, okay, well, is that product, how is that going to be implemented into my life? When would I use it? How would I use it? Do I know how to use it? Again, going back to like stainless steel pans and cast iron pans. Okay, I know I need it, but how do I actually what tools do I need to buy in order to maintain its integrity and all of that? So kind of thinking about how I would implement it into my life before then making a purchase,
Mhm.
something that I try to do so that way I don't get overwhelmed with all these new products and not knowing when to use them and how to use them. I try to do that beforehand.
Mhm. That. And I think, the cost does play an issue here. I think so many people, when they think of low tox, non-tox living, are like, oh, it's a fortune to do this. And we talked a little bit about some of those smaller things that you can do on a daily basis. But I mean, one daily habit in my mind that can also help with this, that is outside of the home, is buying a cup of coffee, going to a place, going to Starbucks, or getting that like daily fix of something. Yes, that can help your wallet, but also that cup has nanoplastics, microplastics, not in just the top, but
Yep.
the lining of the actual cup. And when it's hot, when anything, as we know, is plastic and it's hot, that's leaching into your body. If that is like your water bottle's out in the sun and it's plastic, my mom had breast cancer and thyroid cancer, so that's kind of how I started thinking through all these things. And again, it's not like, oh, this is causal, but just things to think about. And like, okay, do I still drink out of water bottles that are plastic? Yes, but like where I can I substitute like a Mountain Valley glass bottle or make a better choice? Or, sometimes at dinner, not always, do I say, "Oh, I'm gonna spring for," again, pun intended, God, the spring water in the bottle and pay for that versus, like, the tap water. So, it really just depends. Again, like, where can pinch your pennies and where can you make those splurges? And again, it doesn't need to be all the time.
Yeah.
Another thing where I know that this is a privilege is to have, we have someone that comes once a week to help us with cleaning our home because we have young kids, and it's helpful to have that time back and to get a deep clean of our place. And one tip that I would give our listeners is also, even if it's like your partner or someone that's able to help clean for the week, one, it's amazing to just do a clean deep dive of your home once a week. Make sure you're changing your bedding. I know that that's like something we shouldn't have to say, but like make
Yeah.
sure you're changing your bedding.
Yep.
And that includes your duvets, everything, like get off all those germs, the dust mites, all of that. Um, But when we hired this new group of folks, it was so interesting because I said, "Oh, here are my cleaning products. We use a lot of vinegar-based products. Here are all the, rags that we use and all of this." And they were like, "It's okay. We'll use our own products." And I was like, "No, that's um,
Don't.
please don't. Like, this is what, we're going to use in my home." Because what I think a lot of folks don't realize is even that one time that someone's coming in your home, that the chemicals that are now going into your air, your family's coming in and they're breathing that in. It's not just the surfaces and like if you have a dog or a small child that's crawling on the floor, you're all breathing that in. And so another interesting thing is when we were working with these folks, they were after the first time they came and they used my products, they were like, "Ooh, I don't know, like, I don't know if we can work with you because, we won't be able to please you." And I was like, It looked pretty good. It smelled great, like, you used my products." That's I really appreciate that. And they were like, "No, but, like, it wasn't sparkling and it smelled weird and all of this." And it's because they were so accustomed to, like, how can we get the stainless steel to sparkle? How can we have the bleach smell in the bathroom? Like, because that's how they were equating the sense of clean. And I think for a lot of people, that's a huge mental shift that needs to happen is like we equate clean with all of these things that are actually harming our health.
100%. I know that I think of like you said, the bleach, the Windex, these household name Lysol that we
Fabuloso.
oh
Oh
my
god.
god, yeah, Glide. I mean, yeah, we've talked a lot about like, oh my god, if there's ever a Glide plug-in, I am gonna pass out.
Run.
Yeah, run,
Run.
run far.
And I think that a lot of that too is like once you get these chemicals out of your life, when they're reintroduced, I could be in the elevator with someone who used Tide from like they washed their shirt 3 weeks ago and it was sitting in their closet. And I am like, "Ooh," it gives me an instant headache.
Yep. I mean, Abercrombie, you think about, like, when you used to walk
Fierce.
by which I do like Abercrombie. It's probably, like clothing is hard to find non-toxic. This is from Abercrombie, but the back in the day when they would literally put the fragrance in a spray bottle and spray, and you could smell it down the hall, like, there's definitely something.
Yes.
How is that good for you if you can
Well,
smell
I have
it
2
that far
things to
away?
say. Yeah. One, that nostalgia and like how many when I was a teenager, like how many boys did I like I was like, "Oh, he's smells like fierce." And then 2, I unfortunately worked at Abercrombie, so I was
Oh my
spraying that
gosh,
shit all the time.
everywhere. Yep, yep, yep. That is so funny.
Nostalgia, but also,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, fragrance. What's your stance on fragrance in general?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very tough thing because it is a trade secret that you can just write fragrance as a singular ingredient and have tons of toxic chemicals within the word fragrance. I think that I feel bad for so many companies that have to do so much testing and so much educating in this space to tell people that their products are more clean and less toxic. But there are products out there. I love a brand called Emotive. That was started by someone who I used to work with at Full Lane. I know Henry Rose is a brand that is EWG verified. So they're very transparent in their process and their ingredients. Just to name a few things that you could go out and try for yourself. But I always say, fragrance is something that is very personal, very people care a lot about. So one hack that you can do, no matter what fragrance you are wearing, is to spray it on your clothes versus on your skin. That would be a better choice. Just to, it's definitely not perfect, and anything that does have a scent for 12 hours I think is a little concerning, and it would personally give me a headache, but if it doesn't give you a headache and that's something that you, again, feel super passionately about, then can you switch something else and spray it on your clothes instead of your skin? Let's start there. But that is definitely something that I think that there's not a lot of education around how bad it can be for you. And so I think that that's the current problem that I'm trying to educate my
Mhm,
sister, my friends on. And again, sometimes people are like, "Nope, this is my thing." And I'm like, "Great, then
mhm.
let's switch out your cleaning products," or "Great, let's get a new mattress." Again, it's such a personal journey, but I think there is an aspect where people just put it on and, scent makes you feel something.
Mhm.
So going back to the cleaning products, bleach makes you think that something is sterile clean. Um, but really we don't need much more than like vinegar. And it's a
Mhm.
lot cheaper that way anyway too. So I think that the scent is definitely something that's really challenging, and I personally can't imagine ever needing to, smell like caramel delight or anything like that that's in some of these body washes that I'm like, how does anyone actually buy this? Much rather, think about the fact that it smells so strong.
Well,
So
'cause
yeah,
were you in the Bath& and Body Works era or no?
yes, definitely. Definitely.
I
I
mean,
used to love it. And we used to get my mom that, and you think it's like a
whole
treat.
basket. You could buy a whole basket of products.
Yep.
You gave it to everyone. You would have Juniper Breeze underwear. I mean, it was just like it was
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no
Scary.
no wonder why we're having fertility issues and all of this. It's just the fragrance and parfum, if you see that on an ingredient label, I mean, I think it could be up to 3,000 ingredients in that one, or chemicals rather, in that fragrance. Another thing that I find challenging is that, Credo and Sephora and all of these brands have like their clean beauty sections. Credo is
Yep.
generally clean, but
Yep.
they have different definitions. And
Yeah.
do you have your specific definition of clean? How do you filter through all of that?
That's such a good question. I feel like those blanket statements are good for most people. If someone is totally new, admittedly doesn't really care about clean, and they purchase a product that is at least labeled clean by Sephora or Ulta or Credo, I think that that is a good first step for those people who otherwise would have tons more chemicals on their body and exposure on a daily basis. But for people like myself and others who really want to be as clean as possible,
Yeah.
it definitely requires a little more research and understanding and education around each individual ingredient. I think that brand missions and stories are really important. If I think it speaks a lot about third party testing, you know, where are they sourcing things? What are the labor practices? I think the more transparency that brands provide, typically the more trust that I have with them. And the more education. Like I just think of Branch Basics as an example. I just think that um Allison from Branch Basics does a lot of advocacy, a lot of education around why every single ingredient that is in the concentrate is the way it is. And she does so much more. That doesn't mean that I'll agree with every single thing she says or does, but I think that that's a product that I feel like I can confidently recommend to people and know, like, this is your cleaning products, it's taken care of. But I do think that it's an evolving it just require the more time and research that you put in, typically the more, transparency hopefully you will get, and I'm willing to do that work, and I know that you are as well, but it does take time, but it is definitely fueled by passion, and so hopefully my recommendations and that time that I put in on researching products to say this is the cleanest on the market on for a given category or product, hopefully people then will say, "Oh, okay, great, like, now let me go try that,"
Yeah.
because I'm open to trying a new moisturizer or whatnot, so
Mhm. Well, I think that that's your point of differentiation. You are that relatable source of information where, just like all of us, you're trying to sift through and find the truth or find what works for you. And to your point earlier, we can all have different things that work for us and our families. It's all about just like sharing that knowledge with one another. And Allison Evans, as you were mentioning, the co-founder of Branch Basics, she also said something on a podcast recently that was products are innocent until proven guilty in the United States.
it's very true.
Whereas in the UK, products are guilty until proven innocent. And I thought that was so profound because there's less rigorous testing of these consumer products. We have it for pharma. Great. brands can do their own testing. It can be skewed. We know that you can manipulate data and marketing in all of these different ways. At Genwell, we started the Wealth Collective, which is brands, resources, products for women. Similarly, where we can help them to become discerning consumers, how to read labels, products where we know that they're not fear mongering or they're not using specific language to prey on our vulnerabilities. And that can always constantly evolve too, right? Like brands are bought up, ingredients change, and it's our responsibility to take control of that health. It's not the brand's responsibility because we know that that's not going to change. That's been part of marketing and advertising and big business forever. I was a part of that on, sort of the commercial side. And so um it's so interesting to me when I see friends that are buying products off the shelves that are supposedly clean or that they're marketing to women who are the family household decision makers, that they are healthy and natural, and they're not.
Yeah.
And I know you were saying EWG. Are there any other resources that you really love? Because EWG is, again, personally something I use. I do know that I've heard that they do take money from certain brands, which
Mhm.
I totally understand the whole place of pay to play. But I do think that they're transparent to your point in the ingredients that they're calling out and not just the brands.
Mhm.
So, are there any other resources that you sort of tap into in addition to that?
Honestly, I feel like there isn't a lot of other places other than I know that like Yuka is an app that some people will use, but I try to again think less is more. So
Mhm,
typically
mhm.
I will look on EWG and say, I'm open to trying a new toothpaste. Let's see what they recommend. Not
Yeah,
take it for, set in stone, but let me just use it as like a starting point to learn about some brands that, are verified and clean and then go from there. But
yeah.
also there is a really rigorous, to your point, really rigorous process of getting verified and having that exposure on the app. So there's
Mhm,
so many other brands that are doing amazing things that are super clean, maybe even more clean than what's on there that aren't necessarily on that app. So I think just consuming constantly also auditing who I'm following on social media, what sources I am listening to for podcasts or
mhm.
books or whatnot, and I do lean heavily on the people that I like to follow that I trust. I don't necessarily agree with every single word and thing that they say, but when I hear some people talk about one given product or brand and I hear it more than once, or if something just sparks my interest, then I go and follow up and do my own research on that brand or that product. So continuing the auditing theme, social media and just the people and content that you're constantly consuming because you don't even realize that you are and then you do realize that you're consciously consuming it are so important to continuously audit on what you are following and learning because you can unfollow someone, you can mute them, you can block them, you can control who you follow. And I have always been very, very particular on the brands that I follow, the things that show up on my feed because I, of course, try to limit my time, but I do love learning on Instagram and TikTok and seeing things. That's where I get a lot of my information.
Mhm.
So I think that that is something that I'm just open to listening. I hear perspectives. I love to be challenged and also think about different perspectives too.
Mhm.
Because I think that that makes me either open and question things that I'm doing or make me more confident in, nope, I hear that point. That point doesn't work for me. I am going to continue to do this thing or use this thing that I has been working and I love.
Yeah.
Um, I think that that just goes back to the time aspect, unfortunately, of just doing your own research.
Yeah. But it's worth the time and effort. And it's building your own personal confidence in what you're putting in and on your body, which is so important. And it actually takes less stress off of your day that, I mean, for me with my kids, we're going into, sick season. They don't have all these respiratory things that other kids are having because their immune system is frankly stronger. I mean, it's multifactorial, but I do think that the emphasis on the haven that we provided does contribute a lot to that. To pivot back to sort of the products and misleading terms, if it's your followers, your friends, as you're giving advice to women, are there phrases or words that you see a lot on in advertising or on labels that can be very misleading?
I think colors and branding can be very misleading, because I think that those are those are the things that really catch your eye first. And obviously, you have a professional background of understanding this, so would love your thoughts as well. But I think that the font, the colors, the overall vibe is what can be kind of greenwashing, misleading more so. And then people read the label and think like, oh, natural. Like what does natural even mean?
Right.
So I think that those are the things that can definitely be misleading that
Mhm.
are right off the gate and people think like, "Oh, if it looks a certain way," versus knowing to look for like for toilet paper example, look for no bleach, look for no, on any personal care products, no phthalates, no parabens, like looking for those things, people just see something, see a mountain and a sheep on it and think that, "Oh, it's a farm, it must be healthy," and, I think that
Yeah.
the imagery is definitely
Mhm.
the thing that can be really misleading for people.
Right. Or like the greens and the turquoises and the neutral, like calm colors and the words eco-friendly and clean and toxin free. I mean, these are a couple of brands I will call out because I see this consistently with friends or in their homes, but they're not clean. If that's your choice to use them, that is wonderful and that's great and that's your choice. But if you are looking to make cleaner swaps for something, I think the brand Method is used by a lot of women that I see, and that still has fragrance. It has other chemicals in it. We were talking about Mrs. Meyer's.
Yeah.
I mean, they're delicious scents, but
Yeah.
they're scented.
Yes.
You are
There's a
now
reason.
using right, you're now using the pumpkin hand soap and the floor cleaner and their sprays, and you're, again, cumulatively using all those things. If you wanna pick one thing that smells that you wanna have at it with, maybe that's a good place to start. I wouldn't suggest a candle, um, because we know that candles are emitting all of that into the air. They're generally petroleum based. They have toxic perfumes. Like, what do you have a good candle recommendation?
I actually have behind me, Life Bloom is a local
Ooh,
clean brand, that I do love. I always suggest cracking open a window whenever you are burning a candle, regardless of how clean it is. Again, hopefully you are only burning more clean options than your Yankee Candle. Speaking of Bath and Body Works, right next to Yankee Candle in the mall.
God, yeah.
Again, headache. And I think though that the cleanest option if you are going to use candles is beeswax. Not only does beeswax it is a cleaner, medium, but also it does purify the air. So I opt for beeswax candles, birthday candles, beeswax, um, colander, candles for, tablescapes or, Fontana is a brand also that I've been really loving who does have some essential oils in there, so it's a scented beeswax candle. I usually instead of lighting the candles, I have been using the warmers, because I do admit I love a candle, so that is one thing for me that I'm like, my 80/20, I'm like, "Okay, how can I work within my constraints and my boundaries, but still and be able to enjoy the things that I do?"
Mhm.
So, I have been warming them instead of lighting them,
Wait,
and it
what does that
also
mean?
so essentially this was on like a really low setting, but it has a heat lamp essentially. So it's slowly just melting versus lighting it and having like the fire emit, and burn the wick. It also lasts like 5 times longer. So I
What?
have had my candle just slowly melting and lightly emitting whatever scent that there is. with the clean, base for 4 months.
Where
And
do
it's
you
so
where do you get such a device?
Amazon.
Okay, we that's a hot tip. We need to include that in the show
Great.
notes.
I mean, it is, it is electricity, but again, give and take. Personally, for coffee, I have ditched my coffee maker and I have been doing French pressing every morning. So I feel like okay, that was a trade that I feel like a French press coffee. It's in glass. I don't have any, there's no electricity involved in the coffee maker with all the plastics going down. So that was a swap for me that I did. I said this feels like the best way to burn a candle. And, yeah, that's my current thing that I have kind of evolved and audited just based on my experience and my research, so
Cool. Okay, can't wait to try that.
yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit more on your story for how you got into personal training and lifting and all that good stuff.
Oh, you're so sweet. I was very fortunate growing up. My mom, when I was a competitive figure skater, she always was, having me do workout classes to become a better skater. And then we moved to Portland, Maine, and I took up ice hockey and field hockey.
Oh,
Those were
cool.
sports that weren't as popular in California, where I grew up the first 12 years of my life. And with both, especially ice hockey, there was always gym time around it, that especially for the boys. And slowly girls sports also was going into the gym, at least doing speed and agility, ladders, core, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And then, as you get to high school, I was fortunate enough at my high school to have a private personal trainer that was on site at the school. I ended up interning for him during college and working for him full time for 2 years after that exposure at a young age, around like 15, when I
Mhm.
was starting to take sports even more seriously, thinking about, can I play in college? Which sport am I going to play in college? I was very, very lucky to be able to learn about barbells, how to move my body,
Yeah.
how to just support myself from a performance perspective. Looking back, I think I took for granted that that was so unique and special, um, especially for girls to learn their proprioception and learn how to just take care of themselves in that way. And
What was that
I
word that you just said?
proprioception,
Okay, tell me that.
yeah,
What is that?
it's essentially like knowing where your body is in space is
Oh,
essentially.
yeah, obviously I don't know that. Okay, thank you.
So really, especially when you're going through puberty and like everything is changing, physically and emotionally as well. But to be able to, learn how to have core stability and lower body stability and how to gain strength and how not to get injured, all those things, I was very fortunate to be immersed in such a amazing program at that time. And then I interned with, Shelby during college. From all 4 years of college, I also took up personal training some of the other teams that were at Skidmore where I went, which was awesome. So I knew I wanted to be surrounded by athletes. At first, I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist or an athletic trainer. I job shadowed both of those and realized they weren't for me, and I loved being on the preventative side, and I loved helping people be the best versions of themselves because that's what I wanted to do, versus fix people's problems, which thank God there are people out there that want to do that, because we need that. We need that help. Um, and then I was private personal training for 2 full years after college, and then wanted to move to Boston. So I didn't find a job in that regard. I wanted to kind of take that off and put it in the back burner and just know that I had all this great knowledge and skill set, and that might lend me well down the line, but I wanted to move into clean beauty, move into something else. So, I ended up finding this gym in South Boston called Lifted Fitness, and I did extensive research as I do. I really wanted to find the best program because I think the biggest difference and the biggest investment that you can make in your fitness routine is the program. You can drop into classes here and there, get a good sweat in, feel like you did something. But if you are not following a program, just like anything, you're actually not going to build strength and see the results that you want. So that was something that I knew was a big big differentiator, and I was willing to drive wherever outside of Boston to find the best programming, and through a referral, I found Lifted, and I have been working there for 5 years now. I love it. I'll never leave. I just really believe in, again, the programming that they put forward, and, um, I've really fallen back in love again with helping people get stronger, um, helping educate people on how to build that strength. And I feel like strength training right now is really hot, which is great, but there's also a lot of people that have just jumped on that bandwagon and don't really know the difference between a good and a great trainer. Um, and there's definitely, we've talked a lot about like a lot of injuries that could potentially happen, a lot of misconceptions about strength training that could happen. So finding the right trainer in the right program is one of the best valuable things that you could do for yourself and your health.
Yeah. And remind me, how old were you again when you started lifting?
I was probably 15,
Mhm.
and it wasn't, at that age, it was not right to a barbell. It was we start with dumbbells. And again, that goes back to finding a really good trainer who understands this and knows this. It was dumbbells. It was you can't progress until you can, hold a proper plank for 30 seconds. And then we try one hand. And again, that knowledge of a personal trainer that really knows what they're talking about and the programming around that is so important because otherwise, very quickly, you can get injured. And if you have one bad experience, like that can ruin it for your whole life. So,
What an incredible gift, though, to have had that at such a formative age that's set you up for a lifetime.
yeah,
Like to
really.
have that foundation and what you were saying really parallels what the hot topic right now of we're being fed this information of you need to be lifting when we really needed to be lifting at 15 so that we have consistently been working on our bone density and our form and knowing the basics. Women need that proper introduction, that form, and that slow introduction into it.
Yep.
Like maybe they're doing body weight first and then the progressive overload.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to just quickly talk about how your foundational skills, how you apply that when you're working with women now in they've never lifted a day in their life. How do you get them from zero to like a good solid plan where they feel comfortable doing it on their own as well?
Yeah, actually, this is very perfect timing. I felt like I have so many friends. I have so many people in my life that are scared to just go to a gym in general. So
Mhm.
I am actually going to be hosting an introductory to strength training class
Cool.
coming up in a few weeks. So follow me
I
if you
need to
want more
come.
information. Reach out. I feel like so many women hear how important strength training is for longevity, bone density, everything, confidence, being able to always, you know, put your suitcase overhead in an airplane, like all those things, carry your kids, whatever it might be. And so I was like, so many women have never had the opportunity like I did to learn how to hold a barbell, when to use a barbell,
Mhm.
what is the difference between deadlifting and squatting, what part of the bench do you sit on, what are just some general gym etiquette if you're going to Planet Fitness, and things that people I've learned this over time, but so many women never did. So I'm actually going to host a class about when I want everyone to bring as many questions as I have. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out.
Yeah, I
But
love that.
thank you. But I think that when people actually have the confidence and the bravery to step into a gym for the first time knowing that they know nothing, which is again kudos to them because it is very intimidating and can be. Doing anything you've never done before is hard. Um Being able to actually ask them, first of all, what injuries, what things are you working around today? Like, do you have a bad fill in the blank? What do you struggle with? Understanding the person as an individual to then be able to customize and make recommendations based on their body is so important. And again, if you just go to a general strength class somewhere, you're not going to be asked what injuries you have. They just say, if you do have an injury, let me know. Um, And if I had a
Right.
weak shoulder, I probably wouldn't raise my hand. So things like that, the one-on-one individualized attention and curation for what their goals are and what variables that they have and limitations that they have are really, really important to then be able to say, okay, so if you have never used a barbell, let's start with a dumbbell. Let's start with the kettlebell. We're going to do squats this way. You're going to think about these different aspects when you're squatting. Then they feel it, they see it, they realize that they, feel stronger the next day. They come back and that's how you build the confidence and that's how you start to build confidence not only in yourself, but then the trainers and the programming that you have.
Yeah. And going back to like the individual aspect, the fuck is everyone talking about when they're like, lift heavy? Everyone lift heavy. Okay. Like I'm a person who, especially postpartum with my kids, I do very little cardio. I'm very much into like weightlifting and then I'll box and do some other things. But um I probably don't have the best form in some areas. And so, like, I don't use barbells because, in some instances, because it hurts my back. And I could really use someone to help guide me through those things. But am definitely not doing a progressive overload and getting my weights higher. And I don't know what heavy means. Like, is there a heavy that leads to great bone density? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think that this is definitely something that the lifting heavy is only a positive thing when you are working one-on-one with the trainer or at Lifted, it's 24 people in a class, but it's individualized from there. So having that knowledge to be able to say, like, you're doing it correctly, you feel good, can you do 2 more pounds? Like, that is the conversation to have, I think, because if you just tell someone to pick up this weight, that's if they're not engaging their glutes the right way and the core the right way, then they're gonna get injured and then they're never gonna pick up a weight again. So, I think that those boundaries and parameters do have to be set in place of it has to be the right fit in terms of the right exercise for you based on your goals, your needs, your injury history, and also having the trainer be able to watch you and say, "Yes," like, and as long as you continue to feel your glutes, like, for hip lifts, if you can pick up your hips, but if you're not actively thinking about squeezing your glutes, then you can even if you don't feel your low back that day, you will the next day, or you just don't realize that that is a compounding negative thing towards your low back, and that might be why your low back is hurting. Um,
Yeah.
so definitely but for people that are at home and might not have access to a personal trainer or a great gym that has, um, a great program, one of my favorite online, programs is Peloton. I have really enjoyed watching my mom actually, specifically, did not used to do strength training. She probably started picking up a dumbbell for the first time when she was, like, 50, and she heard me talk about this. She follows some people online and was like, "Okay, I think there's some merit to this." And Peloton during 2020 was giving away the app for free. And so I was like, "Let me just see." I've never done online workout. That was, totally new back in 2020. And she had run marathons, got injured every time right before the marathon, and she started to implement their strength training classes in their marathon training program, and she dropped down to 3 times a week running, 3 times a week strength training, and she's run 7 marathons since without getting injured.
Awesome.
So it
So
just
great.
shows that there is definitely again, if you connect with the people on the app and she loves their energy, the program works for her, it might not work for everyone else. It's a little too easy for me. It's just because I have different goals than she does. I'm not running marathons.
You've been
I tried a
lifting.
half.
You're a badass. You've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it works for her. So that app is one blanket statement that I think is great. I don't bike. You don't I think it's like $12 or $13 a month, that you can do, and it's very accessible. So that would be a blanket statement, a program that I think is great that most people um, can access.
Great. I love it. And I just love hearing about sort of the teenage introduction. I think it's so important to get ahead of that. And, for our listeners that are thinking about getting pregnant in coming years or that are, trying, I mean, I had been lifting for quite some time. And by lifting, I mean just strength training. I wasn't doing like super heavy weights, but doing it consistently. And a lot of the guidance when you're pregnant is you can continue what you were doing, but don't try anything new because your body is not like adapting to that. And, you know, especially when you're in that vulnerable state, you want to follow that guidance, right? And so I think if you were able to start lifting well ahead of that in your teens or 20s, you would have such more of an easy pregnancy, meaning like your back might not hurt as much, where you can still continue that muscle building while pregnant and then have like hopefully an easier postpartum process as well,
Yep.
because you're maintaining that muscle to some extent. There's only good things about that. And I love what you're doing. So thank you for
Oh.
helping women just start that. And I can't wait to get my daughter in the gym in 14 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's so
um,
cute.
so a quick fire round for you, and then we'll wrap up. What's one wellness trend that you've seen on TikTok or Instagram that you've actually leaned into?
I think the red light is something that I've
Okay.
leaned into. I do think that the company and device itself is very, very different. You can just get something with red light from Amazon and it not actually have the right wavelengths in it. So the two things that I love, one is Juve.
Okay.
I have their little handheld device. I've had it for 6 years and it works
Wow.
just the way it did day one. So it has infrared, near infrared, and then like a combo recovery one. So I love that. And I also have a Mount Lai, that's my favorite gua sha brand, and they have an LED red light gua sha.
I haven't
So
tried the combo.
that one has been a
Okay.
fun one for me as well. So that I would say red light is something that I probably learned about online and then did my own research, did my own, testing, implementing, and I will not look back, and I love those 2 products.
Great. And there is evidence that shows that it can help with your thyroid. So if you were to hold it, a distance from your thyroid, that could be beneficial for your hormone as well.
It was amazing.
What's your favorite personal care item right now?
Oof, that is a good question. I would say I think that Mount Lai gua sha is really fun,
Okay.
but I love and I love implementing gua sha, in lymphatic drainage. I dry brush before I go into the shower every day.
Mm.
I do legs up the wall every night for at least 5 minutes while I read with my red light kind of illuminated in the background. So I would say, but the LED gua sha is definitely something fun that I am definitely obsessed with right now.
Awesome. What's the last thing you Googled or chat GPT'd?
What wellness trends are on the internet? Because I was trying to think, I was like, "Do I know this just because I learned it, or is it a wellness trend?" So I did look up wellness trends, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, like, definitely,
I
that's
love
one."
it. All right, last question. What is a podcast, a book, or a resource that you can recommend to women?
I cannot recommend Jen well enough. I know that might be,
Thank you.
something that I should say something else, but truly this community that you've created, and every time I've talked to you, I've just been so inspired, and every conversation that's been had on this podcast, I'm so honored to be here and to be a part of it and contribute to it in any way. And your event that you had, I've met so many amazing women who just inspired me, and I can't wait to continue to stay in touch with. So I am a huge advocate for Gen Well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we're excited to have you in our arsenal. So thank you for being an incredible resource. So on that note, where can folks find you?
On Instagram and on TikTok, my username is Kayla Rose, so Kayla Rose, and then 1220, which is my birthday. So Kayla Rose 1220 on both Instagram and TikTok.
I love it. Well, thank you so much again. And we'll have to do another part to this because we have so much more to talk about.
Yes, truly.
But thank you. And we'll connect again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.